Am I audible now? Try to respond in the chat box. Thank you for responding, each one of you. So in the last session, we discussed how to implement the states concept as well as how to implement the props concept. So we discussed how to use props in various components such as function components and class components. In function components, we can use the parameter as the prop. But in class component, we have to use this dot props dot component. Alright? So we have to use this dot props along with the key, which is we are passing from the parent class. Yeah, definitely I will share the screen. Alright, so is this visible now? Yeah, I just shared my screen and I hope you are able to see that. Yes, okay. So without getting delay, I would like to open the code path. So I'm going to open the Visual Studio Code. Just visible. So we have to open the project. So open folder. So this is the open folder, and we have to open the new. No. We already created a project, right? So that is, I think it's a project training. All right. So this is we discussed in the last session. We just used the destructuring of props also. Alright, so we just discussed the concept of destructure. So we can destructure an object, so because props is an object, right? So that is the reason we have to use destructuring. So based on this destructuring, we can able to find the each and every value of the specific key. That means what the value we are getting from the name key and what is the value we are getting from this role also. So this is called the destructuring. We discussed the concept of destructuring also. So we covered the concepts like state, props, as well as destructuring concepts. So can anyone share the syllabus sheet? Durga Vasu. Yes, Durga Vasu. Could you please? Yes. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this information. So this is the React, right? So ES6 JavaScript overview. So in ES6 we already discussed. So we have let, const, and where keywords. Similarly, we discussed anonymous functions and also discussed the arrow functions. And very similar to this, we discussed template rituals, classes, objects, and we also discussed the concept of destructuring. So these are the ES6 fundamentals, and we discussed the features and various kinds of React introduction part. So similarly, environmental setup, we already discussed how we are going to set up the React project. We used Node and NPM, and we already discussed what is a single page application, what is the multi-page application. So this is React features we already discussed. So we already discussed the project structure. So overview of Webpack and Babel, yeah, definitely we have to discuss these two concepts. I will discuss about them in the next video because we have to focus on these two concepts clearly. And component basic, that means we creating of the component and the concept of different kinds of components. So we used creating a React component and understood the concept of JSX. JSX stands for JavaScript XML. We can combine the JavaScript as well as the HTML part. So yes, limitations, that is very, very important. So I would like to tell you the limitations based on the project criteria. When we are going to work with the real-time project, based on that we can understand what are the limitations of JSX. So working with components and reusing components, we already discussed. So we created the components and we used the components as a child for another component. React components, props and states. Understanding using props and states. Handling events with the methods. So we already discussed this one. So we used the state concept. When we are going to hover, mouse hover, then the data gets changed. So this kind of examples we already done with it. And we already discussed manipulation of the state. We used a set state function. So we already discussed two-way data binding, and we also discussed one-way data binding. So React is one-way data binding. So functional and stateful components we already discussed. Parent-child communication we already discussed. So that when we are going to create a child component, we have to use that component in the parent component. So again, states and concept we already discussed. Working with props also completed. Handling events we already discussed. Different kinds of events. Binding data. For binding data we have to use braces. And similarly we discussed lists and keys. Similarly we discussed the forms concept. And we know how to create the forms, and we did a practice on it. That means how we are going to validate a form by using regular expression. That means we are doing some kind of styling. So based on the true condition, it will be changed, and based on the false statement, it will be changed to the background. Styling and style sheet. This is also we discussed. Styling and style sheets already discussed, and hooks concept. Yes, hooks concept is also discussed. We did an example. So we used useState. And we also, we didn't discuss the router concept, we will discuss about it. So counter example, we already done with it. Yes. So these are the concepts, these are the to-dos. We have to do some kind of operations on it. These are the real-time examples. So first one is simple to-do list by using only logic. Okay. Basic landing page covers all the above concepts. Okay, definitely we will discuss. And the overview of concepts. Okay, definitely. Food recipe API using React.js. Okay, so we will see what is the what kind of APIs we have in for free. Based on that, we will use them. Don't worry about it. So we have to discuss the router concept, and we already discussed addition and counter example also. So we already completed this part. The pending topic is router here. So we have to discuss the router concept. All right. So is it clear? Is there any pending topic for us? So if there is any pending topic, we will discuss about it also. So whatever it may be, you have to respond in the chat box. Based on that, we will proceed. We covered each and every topic, and we discussed the components, props, states, styling components, lists, and how we are going to use unique key prop for a list item. So these are all we covered already. And the pending topic is routing. Routing, and we have to discuss the concept of Babel and Webpack. All right. Yes. So this is day 28. Create search filter in React. I mean input search. Okay. Yes. Definitely. Definitely, dear. We will discuss about it also. So first of all, whatever it may be, we have to complete the concept of routing. Routing plays a key role. So I would like to explain what is routing and why we are using routing concept. Okay, so let me open the coding part. So, so first of all, I would like to ask you a question. Material for practice. Okay, okay, definitely. We will provide you a material. So what is the routing actually? So why we need to use that? What is the importance of routing? Can anybody respond? So selecting a path in traffic way. Oh, that's also fine. Any other responses? To connect to other pages, or what else? So what is to connect means what is? So to connect, and so any responses about routing? Different. Yes. Routing establishes basic inter-network communication. So implements an addressing structure that uniquely identifies each device and organizes individual devices into hierarchical network structure. Okay, not only devices, we can focus on the pages and the different kinds of architecture models. So switching between the okay, that is also fine. Anjali Kumar is also responding. Yes, yeah, I think you have a clear idea about routing. Why we need to use routing. So we have to navigate to a specific page or any kind of specific location, that is called as routing. So for using routing in the React project, we have a package. So that is the reason this framework, this React is not called as a framework. This is called as a library, because we don't have any kind of packages by default. We need to get all of them externally, from externally. So let me open the code part. So this is our code part. So we have app.js, right? So here I'm going to install a package. Remember, everyone need to install this package. This is very, very important. So this is for implementing the routing concept in React. So that is npm install React router DOM. So this is the package, npm install React router DOM, and we have to use the routing concept in this application, the routing package in this application only. That is the reason I used --, save npm install React router DOM, and I used space --, save. Just enter, press enter. Now the package is getting installed. You have to do the same thing. If the installation procedure completed, you can respond in the chat box. I just installed the package. So this is the package, right? So we're able to observe that. So found 0 vulnerabilities and 125 packages are looking for funding. Run npm fund for details. Okay. So that means we are able to install successfully because we didn't see any kind of errors here, or we didn't see any kind of warnings. So you can respond in the chat box if you completed the installation procedure for React Router DOM. Please send the code. I think you are asking for command, right? So I'm going to type it. npm install react router DOM. I think I can. This is the command. Anyone completed the installation procedure for React Router DOM? Yes. It is downloading. So, okay. So we wait for 1 more minute for downloading. Okay, done. Done. Okay, done. Okay, done. That's fine. So I hope everyone installed it, isn't it? I hope everyone installed it. So what about Anand? Anand, is your installation completed? Yes, done. Okay, thank you. Thank you for responding. So now it's time to do the practice. So remember everyone, so if you install this package successfully, you can know whether this package is installed or not by using package.json. So let me open the package.json. So yes, this is the package.json, and we install a package that is React router down. So here you can observe we're able to see the package React router down, and we are using 5.2.0. We are using 5.2.0. The version of the React router down we are using, that is 5.2.0. Alright. Now let me close this file. So we have to start the server. We have to use npm space start and press enter. Npm space start and press enter, so that the server will be started. Very soon to this, we have to implement the concept of React router down. That is very, very important. So first of all, we have to know what are the core components for the React router down. So we have to know the core components of React router down. We have 4 core components. So first of all, I would like to import all of them. Import. The first one is, remember everyone, this is very, very important. Browser router. This is the first one, browser router, and we have to use route and link, and switch is optional. Switch is optional. We have to import them from React router down. So we have to import these 4 core components of React router down. I'm going to copy this first because we are using multiple browsers together. Now we used these 4 core components. Those are browser router, route, and link. So switch is optional. So now we have to use each one of them. The first one is browser router. If you want to start with the routing, we have to use this browser router. Or if you want to provide any kind of routes, we have to use route. Or if you want to provide any kind of clickable event, we have to use link attribute. So the switch is for implementing the cases. So that is the reason we have to use the switch. But this is optional. So we have to discuss these 3. The browser router, route, and link. Yes, yes. Now it's open. So this is the data. This is the data available. All right. So this is the data available uh, in our project. So now it's time to implement these browser router, routes, and links, also switch, right? So I'm going to remove all the stuff here, and I'm going to use browser router. So because this is the parent element, in between these two tags we can use the route. So before going to open the route, we have to, it's better to create a new file, new JS file. So we have a header already. So I'm going to remove this header part, and I'm going to implement the new component. Let me create a new component in the SRC folder. So that is something like sample.js. I just used a file. I just created a file with the name of sample.js. All right. Now I'm going to use import a React from. No, it's better to use the function component. It's better. So I'm going to use function that is sample. And this is the function. So we have to use braces also, and we can return a statement directly. And here I'm going to use fragments, React fragments, and in between these two I'm going to implement the sample content. It is h2, and this is a sample component. This is sample component, and we have to export it because we need to import in various project sector. That is the reason we have to use export default method. Export default function sample. So I hope everyone created this one. Okay, so let me open the coding part, and here we have to use routes. Here I am going to use route, and remember everyone, we have to use the self-closing tag because we don't want to implement any kind of information between these two. So route, and we have to use the path. For that we have to use exact path, and we have to specify the path key. So I'm going to specify the path that is something like /sample. I just used sample. Alright, and when we are going to open this URL, for example, here I'm going to open the sample from our project. So this is our project. I'm going to open /sample. So we are not able to get any kind of data. It opened a sample information. It's opened a blank data, blank information on the page. So when we are going to visit this URL, we have to load a component. So that is the reason I'm going to use the component, and I'm going to use the component information. We have to specify the component name here. So we just created a component that is sample.js. I'm going to import it here. I'm going to import it from here. So import sample from. So what we have to do, we have to use the sample, semicolon. So sample.js is a file. So we should use capital S because we already used sample.js. And when we are going to load this path, we have to load this component. So that is sample. Here we are using the sample name. Alright. We save this and execute in the browser. So yes, this is opening. So because we used the sample URL, similarly when we are going to remove this from the URL, so we are not able to see any kind of information because we don't have any kind of information in the parent component, in the app component. So we have data in the sample component only. When we are going to use that URL, the sample, then we are able to load this information. We're able to observe a sample content here. This is a sample component. And very similar to this, we have to implement the basic structure of the home information in this. If you observe this here, when we are going to remove this sample, what will happen? We don't have any kind of information. So we have to implement data for this URL. For that, I'm going to create a home component. That is a left home equals to, I'm going to use the arrow function, and here we have to use the return statement. I'm going to use the fragment. Alright. In between this fragment, I'm going to implement the sample content. So that is very simple. So h2, and this is a home component. This is a home component. So it will be open. So we just created a home component in the app.js only. Totally we have two components in this app.js. The first one is app and the second one is home. So we have two components now, app and home. In the home component we have a sample content, that is this is a home component, right? So we're able to see that information here. So when we are going to execute it, refresh, we are not able to get any kind of information in the home page and home component. So for that, what we have to do, we have to use the home component information in the route concept. So I'm going to use a route here. I just used a route, and this is a self-closing tag. And here also I'm going to use exact path equals to, and what I'm going to do, we have to give a slash symbol. So when we are going to use slash symbol, this is very equals to this localhost colon 3000. So when we are going to use slash symbol here, what will happen? That is not the same. We are able to see the same component. So when we are going to use slash symbol, that indicates the home component. It means when we are going to use the URL, that is with the slash, and here also we are able to see the same kind of information. So that is the reason I used slash symbol. So when we are going to use slash symbol, so we have to load the home component. So I'm going to use component, and that equals to home. Save this and execute in the browser. So now we are able to see this is a home component. This is a home component. Very similar to this, when I'm going to use sample, what will happen? We are able to load the sample component. We are able to load the sample component. So this is a home component, and this is a sample component. So this is a single page application because we have only one page, that is index.html, but we are loading multiple components based on the URL. Is that clear, everyone? Is that clear? Can anybody respond? Clear. Is that clear, everyone? Yes, clear. So most of the people responded, that's clear. Okay, thank you for responding. And now we have to create a real-time project. That is very important. Till now we know what is what, but we have to do a practice on real-time example. So I'm going to use a sample information. That is something like, I'm going to create a new object, a new JSON file. Alright, so I'm going to create a JSON file here. So yes, this is src, and in src I'm going to create a new file that is with a JSON extension, that is with the name of data.json. I just created a file with the name of data.json, and now the file is empty. If you observe, the file is empty now. Data.json, the file is empty now. Here I'm going to use the braces for creating a JSON data. Here I'm going to create a profiles object. So this is something like an array object. So we have to use array, and in that array I'm going to create two more profiles. Alright, so this is the first one, first element, and this is the second element. So we just created a profile array. So this is an array because we used already brackets, and in that we have two elements. First element, this one is the first element, and this one is the second element. Alright, so I'm going to implement the sample content in the first element. In the first element, I'm going to use name, that is something like Hanuman Kumar. Alright, and very similar to this, I'm going to use role, and here I'm going to use main developer. And very similar to this, I'm going to use my email ID, email, so I just used my email ID. Alright, and it's better to use the official mail ID, hanumankumar.p at APSSDC.org. And after that, I'm going to use mobile number. Mobile, so we have to represent that mobile number. I'd like to use a sample mobile number, that is 9888 588 and 100. This is a sample mobile number. So I just pick up some kind of random digits to generate this kind of mobile number. And I'm going to use address. So in address field, we need to use address. So this is the address field. So we created the first profile. We just created the first profile, alright? And similarly, we have to look into the second profile. So I would like to copy all the stuff here. I'd like to copy all the stuff from here, and I'm going to use the sample content element. This is the second profile. This is the second element, profile element. This is the first one, and this is the second one. So we just created the second profile. So, and we have to change the names of it, and I'm going to use Raja G. I just use Raja G. And I'm going to use mean developer. I'm going to use I just used a sample email ID. Alright, so I just used rajaregi.g at APSSDC.com. Similarly, I'm going to use the mobile number, that is 101. And very similar to this, I'm going to use his location. Alright, so I just created an array of elements, and this is the first element, and here this is the second element. Just save this, and I hope all of you guys have created the same kind of content. Yes? Can they respond in the chat box? Kindly respond in the chat box whether you created this information or not. Yes. So Nikita created, and what about others? Yes, created. Everyone need to do this task. It is very, very important. Mohan Sachin are completed. Yes, done. Aman. And what about others? So if you completed the procedure, so we have to do the validation. So we have to check whether this file is valid or not. So we have to copy all that information. I just used Control A to select this, and we have to use Control C for copying this. And after that, we have to use the JSON validator. So I'm going to use the JSON validator. So that is JSON link. We already discussed about it. I just used JSON link, and here I'm going to create. Yes, we have to paste that information. So I'm going to paste this information. Now this is the data we already created in the data.json, and we have to validate this information. So I'm going to click on this validate JSON, and now we're able to see this is a valid JSON. We're able to observe the output, the result, that is valid JSON. So there is no problem with my JSON file now. Close this JSON link. So are you able to get the same kind of result? Is there any problem in your JSON data? Kindly respond. You are able to get no problem. Okay. What about others? What about others? Everyone can respond in the chat box. Okay, that's fine. No. So no, and I'm going to use sample content. So first of all, we have to import this data.json nav.js. So I'm going to use import. So what data we have? So we need to get this information, profiles. So we need to get this information, profiles information. So I'm going to use import profiles. So because profiles is one of the inner object in it. Profiles from, so what the file name? So that is data.json. Data.json. We save this. So we just imported this. Import profile from the data.json because we need to get information from this profiles. No, it's a profile, so we just used profile. So we have to use profiles here also. Profiles. So let me call this function. Let me call this profiles instance. For example, I'm going to use console.log statement. In that, I'm going to use profiles. So let me see this. What is the profiles here? What is the profiles? So profiles is nothing but it's an array. It's an array and having two elements in it. The first element contains name belongs to Hanuman. The information belongs to Hanuman, and the second element contains the information belongs to Raja. Save this and execute in the browser. So we have to open the console statement because we printed that information in the console window. Yes, now we are able to see the array. So we have two elements of information. The first information belongs to Hanuman Kumar and the second information belongs to Raja. And we can understand we are able to see this information here. That is profiles information. So we need not to use any kind of console.log statement because we are able to get that information from the data.json. And just remove this, and we have to implement that information in this home component. So first of all, I'm going to create an article element. Here I'm going to mention the article class is parent. That's it. I just used parent, and here I'm going to use the binding statement for getting information from the data.json. So that is profiles. So we are getting information, that is profiles. I'm going to use profiles.map function. So here I'm going to use two parameters. The first one is item and the second one is value. First one is item and second one is index. And here we have to use the arrow. I just used arrow, and we have to use parenthesis for returning a value. Right, so we have to implement a sample content in it. So I'm going to use a sample division. I'm going to use a sample class name here. Class name equals to child. Very similar to this, we have to use class name for the parent also. We don't use any kind of class, we have to use class name. So we're able to see an error. So what is that error? No, we're not able to see any kind of error here. Everything is fine. So in this, I'm going to display the first value information. So we have to use the key prompt. So key, and every time it's better to use the index value as the key prompt. Okay. So here we have to use a sample division. So I'm going to print a value, that is h2, and whatever the information we are getting from the array, that will be stored in this item. So if you observe this, this is the array. We are getting items from this array. So this is the first item and this is the second item. In the first item we have the keys like name, role, email, mobile and address. And similarly in the second object also we have name, role, email, mobile and object and address. So what we have to do, we have to use the binding statement again. So we have to specify the item dot item dot. So what is the key here? So the key is name. So we have to use name as the key here. So item dot name. Right, let me save this and execute in the browser. So index is not defined, item is not defined. So we are getting this kind of error. Yes, so we closed this one here. So we have to close that after this parenthesis. Let me save this and let me refresh. Yes, now we are able to see the information. Hanuman Kumar and Rajaji. Alright. Now what we have to do, we have to create the classes. So first one we have to create the parent class, and second one is we have to create a child class also. We have to create two classes. The first one is for parent and the second one is for child. So I'm going to open the CSS, that is app.css. We have two classes here, parent and child. I'm going to create the two classes in the app.css. The first one is parent, and I'm going to use display flex property, and I'm going to use flex direction. So this is the combination, right? So we already discussed about it. I'm going to use flex flow. Flex flow, that is row graph. And very similar to this, I'm going to use justify content also. Justify content, that is center. Similarly, we have to create the class for the child. So we have to use dot child, and we have to use the border first. Border, that is 1px, solid and hash double D. Okay. So we have to use padding. Padding is 1%. Margin, that is also 1%. Okay, so we have 2 more days for this course. In the last day, we will have an assessment test. It has nearly 30 to 40 questions. Those are MCQs. So how to see content, the URL is not completed, but it shows related data like Google. So how to see content, the URL is not, okay, we will do that, Fatima. So I'm going to open the code part here. So I just created the styles. So we just used the border, and we just used the padding and margin also. So again, very similar to this, I'm going to use the box shadow. That is 8px, and so we have to use 0px, it's better. 0px, 8px, again 8px, and I'm going to use -8px and hash 000. So that's what we are creating. So we are creating the child here. So we just apply 0px, 8px, 8px, -8px, and hash 000. That is the shadow. That is the shadow for this. And I'm going to save this, and to open the code, let me run the output. Today is 26. Today is 26, isn't it? It's 26. Is that number 26, everyone? Everyone respond in the chat box. Is it 26? 26 today? Okay, we will get the clarity from the hierarchy also. Okay. It's a 28. Likita responded, it's a 28. Yes, sir, 28. Anjan Kumar responded, it's a 28. Okay. Yes, okay. And to save this, so we are able to see that information, Hanuman Kumar and Raja Ji. Alright, so here I'm going to use the width property for these two. So yes, children, for the children I'm going to use width property, that is 30%. No, I'm going to use 40%. 40% of it. Save this and execute. Yes, now we're able to see that. Very similar to this, I'm going to use the text align. Text align center. I'm going to use center alignment. Now we're able to see the text in center alignment. So Hanuman Kumar and this is Rajaji. So if you want to change the color code for this H2, that is Hanuman Kumar and Rajaji, we can get the color codes from the HTML color codes. HTML color codes, we can get the color codes from this HTML. Alright, here I would like to use the color code is, here we have a blue color. So that is 183190. 183190. So we have to use the color code here. So I'm going to use chain, and we have this unit color. So we use 183798. So I just used this color code, and we have to execute that. So now we're able to see that Hanuman Kumar and Rajaji. This is the profile belongs to Hanuman Kumar and Rajaji. Session is 26. This one is 26th session. Okay, okay. Yes, okay. So we just created two profile cards. The first one is having information about Hanuman. The second one is having information about the Raja. So these are the profile cards we just created, and I'm going to add other information also here. So for example, so we have this information here. So let's, and we just display the name of the. Similarly, I'm going to display the role as well as the email address. So just open this, and I'm going to print the role as well as the email address. I'm going to use H4. This is the fourth largest heading, and in this I'm going to use item dot role. So very similar to this, we have to use the email ID also. email ID. So we have to use A, and we have to use AHREF, and here we have to maintain the mail to, because we are maintaining the email address. So I'm going to use mail to property, and here we have to use concatenate operator, and also we have to use the information that is item.email, item.email, and we have to close the anchor tag also. So in between these two, we have to use the email address. So that is item.email. So we have to use this anchor tag here and save this and execute in the browser. Now we are able to see that information. That is Hanuman Kumar, MEN developer, and Hanuman Kumar.p at APSSDC.in. Here Raja G, mean developer, and rajareddy.g at gmail at APSSDC.in. They're not visible. Once share the screen. Okay. Yes. Is it visible now? Is my screen visible now? Kindly respond. Yes, I would like to show you the code. I would like to show you the code for a while. This is the code we just implemented. So we just used an article, and we also used a division along with the second largest heading, fourth largest heading, and the anchor tag. Anchor tag is for displaying the email address. So we just used mail to attribute because we are using email. That is the reason I used mail to. Is that clear, everyone? Are you able to get the same kind of output like this? So I just implemented two profile cards. The first profile card is having information about Hanuman Kumar, and the second profile card is having information about Raja. And this is one profile card, and this is another profile card. Are you able to get same kind of output? And they respond in the chat box. Respond in the chat box. Anyone? Or if you want me to show the code, I will show the code also. So if you stuck anywhere, you can ask me in the chat box. Based on that, I will show you the code and I can help you. Yes, it's visible, but I'm asking, are you able to get the same kind of output like me or not? Respond. Anyone can respond in the chat box. So please, no. Not possible to send entire code. Show the code. So which one you want? Either CSS code or JavaScript code. App.js. Okay, sure. So this is another component. This is the home component, and this is the app component. In the app component, we used a return statement along with the browser router. Browser router is for applying the routing, and similarly we use the paths for home component as well as the sample component. And very similar to this, we used article and this information. This is in the home component. Yes, it's okay. And sir, open the browser. Yes, yes, okay. This is the project, and this is the output, the home page. Do we use browser router in action in form tag? I will show you. Uh, so this is for routing only. So why we need to use the browser router in forms? Fatima, we're getting same kind of output like me. So I just created these two cards dynamically and applied styles by using app.css. And okay, it's completed. You're able to see the same kind of output, right? So anyone just respond in the chat box. Is the task completed? Are you able to see the same kind of output like this? So I just used Hanuman Kumar Rajaji and men developer, mean developer, and I displaying the information that is email. Are you able to get the same kind of output? Or if you want to, if you want me to show the CSS code, I will show the code also. This is the app.css, and we created the information that is parent, child, and we use the second largest heading. So this is the information regarding the parent attribute, the parent class, and this is all about the child class, and this is all about the h2 element.
That is, it's possible to get information from user and display like that using it. Yes, yes, it's possible. It's possible. It's possible. So I just used a sample example. Screen not visible. Screen not visible. So it's visible, I think. Nice, Rahman. I think it's visible now. Definitely, we will get at least 2 questions from this module, React Router Down, because this is one of the very important concepts in React. Alright, so we just created 2 profile cards like this, and I'm going to use a button here. So that is a link attribute. I'm going to use the link attribute. The link. Yes, we have to use link, and we have to define the information between these 2 tags. That is the reason I'm going to use the closing also. So link opening and link closing, and I'm going to use the view profile information in between these 2 tags. The content is view profile here. View profile. And save this and execute in the browser. Now we are able to see that view profile here. View profile. We are able to see that information here. But this is the button, so I'm going to use a class for this class, and that is something like button. So I'm going to create a class for this button. So we have to use class name, and let's use class name, that is button. And here I'm going to use the button class. So dot button, and here I'm going to write the styles for this button. The first one is display, and this is block, because we need to display that information in the new line. Display block, and I'm going to use the color code. So background, that is hash 183790. So I just used 183790. Similarly, we have to use the color for this. So the color, and we have to use white color, hash triple S, the color code for this, and just save this, and we have to execute this in the browser. So this is the profile. This is the profile, but it's better to maintain the margin. So I'm going to use the margin property, margin, that is 1%. Very similar to this, I'm going to use the padding also for getting space inside of that element. So first of all, we have to remove the underline. If you observe this here, we are able to see the underline. For remove that, we have to use text decoration property. So that is text decoration, and we have to use the value, that is none. Alright. So here none is the value for this text decoration for removing the underline. There is no underline for this element. So this is all about this profile card. So we're able to see the profile card here. So we just used a h2 element for displaying the name, and we used a h4 for displaying the role. And similarly, we used a mail to property for displaying the email address. Finally, we used a button too. So these are the 2 profile cards here. Screen is not visible. Yes, yes, it's visible. It's visible. I'm checking each one now. Yes, it's visible. Now, when we are going to click on this profile, we have to navigate to the next block. So next page. So the page is nothing but is a component. So we have a component that is sample. So when we are going to click on this link, so we have to navigate to the sample component. So that is very, very important. So we just used a link attribute, and when we are going to click on the link attribute or link element, we have to navigate to the URL. So we already used the URL, that is sample. So the sample URL contains information about the sample component. So I'm going to use to attribute link to, and we have to use the path name. So the path name we have to specify here, path name, and we have to use the path name. So we already defined the path, that is sample. So we have to use /sample here. And save this and execute in the browser. Now when we are going to click on this view profile, we have to navigate to the sample path. So the sample path contains the information regarding this component, the sample component. And just save this and execute in the browser once. Just click on this button. Now the URL changed. So we're able to see the information about the sample component. So this information is from the sample component. So we already defined the component in the path, that is sample. So similarly, when we are going to click on this link, this button, we're able to navigate to this path, that is /sample, and execute it again. I'm going to click on this view profile button. Now this component is loaded. Very similar to this, I'm going to click on this second button from the second card. We're able to see that navigation. Alright, but this is very simple, so everyone can do that. But when we are going to click on this view profile button, we have to load the specific element information. For example, here Hanuman is there. So when we are going to click on this view profile button, we have to see the Hanuman's information here. Very similar to this, when we are going to click on this Raja's button, Raja's information will be displayed here. That is very, very important. So this is a static, so everyone can do that. So we have to pass information from this component to and this component. Alright, so we have to display that information regarding this component information. So we already used the path. Here this is the path, and we have to load the component information. And we have to use the data attribute. So I'm going to pass the sample data. I'm going to use comma. And I'm going to use data. So data. I just use the data. And here I'm going to use the object like style. So that is ID. I'm going to pass sample data here. So what is the sample data? So we have to pass at least one sample data from here. So when we are going to use this index, so we have only two elements. The index value calls that either the first element or the second element. So I'm going to use index as the value here. So data, and I'm going to use ID. So I'm going to pass the index value. Alright, so I just use index. So we are passing data from one component to another component by using object like style. So we used the data and we are passing that information here. So when we are going to use or when we are going to send data from one component to another component by using link attribute, that means we are passing data from the URL. So from this URL we are passing that information. Let me click on this view profile. Now this information is hidden because the React Outer DOM is secure. But if you want to get that information, the information will be available in the URL. So if you want to get that information, so we have to open the sampler.js, and here we have to use the props. I'm going to use props. So here I'm going to use a console.log statement. Console.log. So we are getting information from the props, right? So we have to use props, and we have to load the URL, because from the URL only we can get the data. So I'm going to use props.location. Props.location, and what kind of data we are passing? That is very, very important. So we are sending data from app.js, that is ID. That is ID. So we are passing data, data along with our ID. So we have to use data.id in the sample.js. So props.location.data.id. So this is the information. So let me save this and execute in the browser. So this is the URL, right? So just refresh, and I'm going to click on this view profile. Just open the console.log statement. Here we are able to see 0, because the index value of the first profile is 0. So I'm going to click on this second profile. Now we're able to see 1 as a result. Now we can load that information by using this. Alright. So we're able to get that information from one profile to another profile. That's fine. And here what we have to do, we have to load the data.json here also, because we need to get that information from the data.json. We're able to access that index values. Based on the index values, we have to display that information from the data.json. I'm going to use import statement. Import. And what we have to do, so we have to get that information from the profiles. So I'm going to use the profiles again. Profiles from, we have to use from, and where we are getting information from, so we have to use data.json. Data.json. So this profiles is an array element in the data.json. So very similar to this, I'm going to use the profiles of, so this is the index value we are getting from the app.js. So, and I'm going to use the profile of props.location.data.id. This is the index value we are passing from the app.js to the sample.js. And save this and execute in the browser. So profile, so we have to use profiles, because we already used the profiles here, so we have to use same kind of name. So save this and execute in the browser. So just refresh. Okay, just navigate from the class component, root component. So this is localhost 3000. Let me content, and let me click on this view profile. Let me open the Control-I, it is console, and this is an object. So in that object we have the information, that is Hanuman Kumar, man developer, and the mobile number, email ID, and address. And very similar to this, I'm going to click on this Raja's profile. So here we are able to see that information belongs to Raja. So this is how we're going to load that information based on the profile. So this is that information. When we are going to send the data, we have to use the props keyword for getting information from that external component. So this is the props.location.data.id. Just save this. Yes, now it's time to display that information in this area. So when we are going to refresh this, we are not able to get that information, because we have to reload from the localhost 000, because we are passing data from URL. So let me click on this. Now here we have to display that information. So I'm going to use that information that is belongs to the specific profile. So first of all, I'm going to save that information. So in a variable. So that is where data. No, I'm going to use info. Where info equals to profiles of props.location.data.id. Alright. So this is the variable, and I'm going to use info.name. Info.name. If you want to display that information in a specific division, that is also fine. We have to create that. So we already have the child and the parent elements classes, so we can use that information here also. So let me save this and execute in the browser. Now we are able to see that information, that is Hanuman Kumar. And again, get back to this. I'm going to click on this Raja's profile. Now we are able to see the Raja's information. Click on view profile from Hanuman Kumar. We are able to see that Hanuman Kumar. And when we are going to click on this Raja's profile, we are able to see the Raja's profile. So this is all about how we are going to use the React Outer DOM. Is that clear, everyone? Is that clear? Can anybody respond in the chat box? Yes, it's clear. So this is all about today's session, and it's time to wind up the session for today, and we'll continue tomorrow, everyone. Thank you, each one of you.